Welcome to the 59th episode of My First Job, the podcast. We tend to celebrate occasions and special days, and Valentine's Day is on Feb 14th. So, just a couple of days later, but since this will be as a live stream today, uh, we have a couple who have joined us today. Extremely interesting background. Shammy and Charlotte were in the Netherlands before they decided to relocate to Chennai 10 years ago. Uh, it was a big decision, and they moved with their children, and they have transformed what used to be a barren landscape into a farm that is sustainable and a source of joy not just to them, but to the number of visitors they have every year. They are living their dream, and they have lovely line on their website in a newsletter which says the future belongs to those who see the beauty of their dreams. We're privileged to have both of them on the show, and let's bring them in. Hello, Shami, and hello, Charlotte. Hello, Dr. Charlotte. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
So,
you, Venu.
Morning.
okay. So since the present day, you have a farm, it's all well set up, you have Wi-Fi, which means that's how we're talking to you. But obviously things were very different. So since this program has got to do with first jobs, if Shami, we could probably start with you as to where did you begin and what has your career evolution been like?
Thanks, Venu. Yeah, I would consider myself my career as very, very squiggly, and I think that's because I realized sometime later on in life that I kept following what my heart told me to. Right. So when we were going to school, it was all about you either be an engineer, doctor, or a loser. Right. So we so that time I knew I did not want to be a doctor, so somehow scrambled my way through and made it into engineering, and I did 4.5 years of that, but realized it wasn't really what I wanted to do. And uh, and so well, all my friends were studying and moving off to the US and doing their masters. I just said this is it. And but I wanted to get into the world of fashion. That's something that I had a passion for fashion. If that means I'm not a poet, but it seems to rhyme. Um,
Okay.
and and surprisingly, that was the first year when the Ministry of Textiles started a school in Delhi for fashion, the National Institute of Fashion, and I was fortunate enough to be the first batch there. Loved what I
Okay.
did. I loved what I did in the following years. And then again, in the back of my mind, I said, if I'm going to be in this career, I need to be working with one of the best. And fortunately, I had opportunity to be hired by Nike in the US. So I moved there. And again, I think it was fortunate that Nike was targeted by labor compliance issues, where all the NGOs went against them to say they were not, uh, they were abusing their position in the Asian countries, and it was far from the truth. And because I saw both sides of uh, you know uh, both sides of the picture, and I realized that you can't just run a successful business. You have to run it so that the business gives back, right? That's in my
Yeah.
mind. It started fitting. That's the sustainable, company, and that's the company of the future. And I think Nike did that extremely well for the next 10 years. So I had the opportunity of being trained by the thought leaders of that time on how to run a company that does not negatively impact anything. I think this kind of played a huge role that brought about my purpose. And I parted ways with Nike in 2009. By then, I had moved to Amsterdam, and I started my own agency where I started sharing my knowledge to companies
Okay.
on how can they run a very thriving business which can be positively impacting. the environment, the people, and the business. Did that, and then 2000, I met my lovely wife again, probably part of my strong manifestation in Amsterdam, and
Okay.
fortunately we had very similar views, and we
Okay.
both said, let's pack up and go. Let's pack up and go to a place where we can have more of an impact, and our children can really see what living with nature is. We had a small patch of
Right.
land here, which was barren, and we said, let's move. So we packed up and moved to a single room in the middle of nowhere with no internet and single phase electricity. That's my journey, and here I am 10 years later, in this
Okay.
podcast talking about the
Yeah.
marvel of living with nature. Thanks.
Okay. So let me hear from Charlotte as to what she's been through. What is your childhood like? And where did you grow up? What were the kind of influences on your life?
I think my childhood had a big influence on where I am now today. As a child, I was always running around in nature, climbing trees, into the forest. I would run, observing nature, all animals, plants, whatever was there. So actually, no
Okay.
wonder I became a biologist, because I was always with my family on the farms and walking with my mother outside, learning about plants and medicinal plants. So this passion for nature started already in my childhood. Then I started my study. I studied biology in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and I was always fascinated about nature and conservation. So one thing that made a big impact on my life was that I went to Suriname, to South America, to the rainforest, to live with the
Okay.
indigenous peoples and with the Maroons. They also live in tribal communities deep in the rainforest. So how do people live back in nature with just the basics? And I was fascinated by that, and this led to more research in the field of medicinal plants. I worked in Amsterdam at the university. That was the start of my career, which was actually in line with my Surinamese project. So I worked there. I never took the conventional pathway, I guess. I found some old data on traditional knowledge on plants of Suriname that was collected by someone who was 80 years old, and I found it by accident in this room. I've got my own funding, and I
Okay.
published a book on plants of Suriname. And I had to organize my funding, and luckily, also for my Surinamese project as a student, the Prince Bernhard of the grandfather of our king in the Netherlands, he funded my project. I wrote him
Okay.
a letter one day, and he was fascinated by what I had to tell him. And he called me one Friday afternoon, and he said, "I like to fund you because what you have in mind and what you want to do in the future is of my interest." So that was the start of my career. After that, I also studied anthropology because I like to combine these two fields of study, life science and social science. And I went back to Suriname many times. And every time I went there, I worked on my PhD research. I never was looking for a PhD, but I could create my own research in such a way that I could still write down the knowledge of the people living in the rainforest. So that I
Okay.
did in my evening hours next to the jobs that I had. I worked at the universities, different ones in the Netherlands, on projects on traditional medicine for better public health in Africa. I worked for the Indian government after that, the National Biodiversity Authority in Chennai, which was in line, but this time more about the ethics and the biodiversity law in India to protect the traditional knowledge being taken away by other people in other countries. So this was
Okay.
really fascinating for me. And after many years in the evening work, I finalized my PhD on the Saramaccan maroons. So it was not really a conventional pathway. In the meantime,
Right.
we also started our farm. But I strongly believe that you should follow your passion in your work, and then anything is possible.
Okay. So where did you both meet?
We met in Amsterdam,
Okay. Okay.
and actually, we were both salsa dancers.
Oh,
And
okay.
Amsterdam is a lovely place to dance. So we just met one evening, and then we noticed we had many things in common. So about
Okay.
nature, about playing guitar, about our our passion for nature, and that we want to make a difference, and how we're going to do that. So yes, it was a little magic, I think.
Wonderful.
Venu, I
So,
think to what Charlotte said,
uh,
our backgrounds were so similar that even
uh,
though I met Charlotte for the first time on the dance floor,
yeah.
when she said something, I said, I do the same. She
Yeah.
started
Okay.
doubting me that was he joking or have I seen this man before? So it was
Okay.
so, I mean, from a passion for old cars to saving olive ridleys on the coast. Me being in
Okay.
India in school
Right.
doing the turtle walks, and she being in
Right.
Suriname at that time doing the same thing. Right, so it was
Right.
fascinating. Just think about it, everything that was happening simultaneously.
Okay. But amazing coincidences, like you said, in terms of having the same kind of interests, and then, okay, salsa brought you together, but, the way you actually worked it, what were the things that went through your mind when you were, because you were obviously doing very well at Nike, and so was Charlotte in terms of, pursuing biology. What was the point at which you kind of decided that moving to a place which was so far away would be okay? I mean, either one of
Yeah,
you.
no, I think it was. I mean, talking about Nike, I think it was one of the best places to work. The culture was phenomenal. Great bunch of people, and it still is. I just finished the book called The Shoe Dog. Brought tears into my
Yeah,
eyes. Reliving my
fabulous book.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah, reliving my life in the '90s of all the people that they mentioned. Um,
right.
so, I think since I started looking at everything as a possibility, right? I think this whole trying to do something without impacting the environment. Had some wonderful people talking to us those days, and I think even before the word sustainability was coined, we were introduced the word in 1996. We had Stephen Hawkins, we had Bill McDonough who wrote uh, Cradle to Cradle.
Yeah.
Janine Benes, who wrote Biomimicry, all those people coming and talking to us even before they were big names, really inspiring. And so then it was a very futurist way of thinking where they trained 100 change agents and left them into the company saying, go do what you can. And I think we made a huge impact in the way the company started approaching sustainability. But it also started sinking in as a personal purpose for each one of us, not just the company's purpose, but also personal. And after a while of making fantastic clothes and shoes, I started asking myself, is it really necessary? How many more pairs of shoes would I need? How many more, black t-shirts and hoodies would I need? And
Okay.
so that's when, the whole purpose in life saying, why am I doing this? It's fun. You make a lot of money, you meet fun people. And but at the same time, Nike was also going through a restructuring. So my role of a sustainable ventures director was moving back to the US, and I had no intentions to move. So I think these external factors also played a role when I said maybe this is the right time to take the exit, and find my new destination. Um, and our place that we had was this barren piece of land that nobody was using. It was in the danger
How
of
big is
being
the area?
the
How
family
big
the
is the
family
land?
yeah, the family owns around 10 acres, but my dad, who was also, I mean, who was a visionary, every time he bought a small parcel of 2 acres, he would, write it in one of our names. So I legally have little over 2 acres, but it's amidst the entire family property. So we get to enjoy the whole extent, but we
Right.
aggressively farm on the 2 acres, and as it goes further and further away from the house, it blends into natural growth where our cows roam and our dogs roam. So I think
Okay.
that's what it took, a little bit of self reflection on my purpose, then the situations around me to say, Either I move back to the US and continue my life that I did for the last 15 years for another 15 years, or take a jump. And we did it. And thanks to Charlotte, she supported me. She said, I'm going to
Right.
join you. So fantastic.
Okay. So, what was going through your mind? Because it was a big decision. So,
It
what were
was
the things that you considered? Yeah.
it was on one hand a big decision, but it never felt for me like that.
Okay.
I think we were working in the Netherlands. I worked at the university. I worked on a project in Africa. I was very flexible. My professor said, well, if you want to move to India, go ahead. I'll meet you in Africa. You don't need to be at university here. As long as you get all your deliverables for the EU in time, I'm fine. So one day I
Okay.
told them I want to move. And so we just went. And that was not at that time. It didn't feel as a big decision because we first went in 2009. We didn't have kids that time, and we just
Okay.
started from scratch. There was nothing here. It was a barren land, but that's actually what I actually liked. I like to start
Okay.
from scratch and build things together with Shammy. Shammy is an absolute doer, so together we formed a good team to start from scratch. We had no internet. There was always three dongles, and Shammy had to have a meeting somewhere. And I just put a mosquito net under the tree, and there he had his Nike meeting, or I had my meeting. So you
Okay.
had to be very creative to get started. And luckily, my project in Amsterdam for the university still continued for a year before I started my new job here in India.
Okay.
So we were free. We didn't have children yet at that time.
Okay.
Um, we were flexible. So for me, I always knew I would move somewhere. I would explore the
Right.
world, and especially rural areas was of my interest as a biologist. So I'm still happy we made that jump.
So, do you miss Amsterdam? I assume that you go back once in a year or a couple of years or so.
Yes,
Life is so different, right?
it's very different, and that is also very nice because actually you have best of both worlds. When you say,
Okay.
do you miss the Netherlands? Not that much, but
Okay.
for example, we sold a house, everything, but I still have my cycle. So when I'm in
Okay.
Amsterdam, I immediately take my bicycle out to cycle through Amsterdam and outside because it's very green area, and that's
Okay.
something I really enjoy. But when I'm here in India, I don't miss Amsterdam that much. And nowadays, of course, you have internet, you have WhatsApp, you have different ways to connect with family and friends as well. So
Right.
it's much
Yeah,
easier.
that is the other part. I think technology has made it so easy for you to kind of stay in touch with people, which used to be
Absolutely.
different earlier.
Yeah,
So,
true.
yeah. So, Shami, just a couple of questions on what were the first stages? Like she said you were hands on. So, what were the kind of steps that you saw in building up this place? You're on mute, Shami.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since problem solving and innovation is part of what I do,
Yep.
to make a living with companies. I think that aspect comes across in my daily life too. So every time we came back, we knew this is something we definitely need now, and this is something we need, for the future. And I always tell other people who come to talk to us about starting farms, I said it's not one rule for everyone. It's your life, it's your family, it's your flexibility, your distance from the farm, the way you are actually, all your steps will change. This, for us, this was it. We had to create some activity to prevent people from illegally using the land, right? So for us, the first step was start something,
Right.
right? So we fenced, and we fenced. Our second step was a water source. And then, so I said, wow, this is something that we are starting. And Charlotte and I, our values have always been, it's got to be done the right way. So whatever we could minimize, we found the best architect at that time to advise us on how to build a low impact home. So we started with that. And then I tell people, once you've done that, then the farm will start telling you what to do.
Okay.
you know yeah, you like, you're going to be ravaged by pigs, maybe, and then you have no other choice but to live with them, but tell them
Right.
which is their place and which is ours.
Okay.
The monsoons will come in, and you'll know the seriousness of the issue. So you take care of that. So it's about you having this matrix of saying which is the most impactful and feasible. We do that. So that's how we guided our path so far, and it's worked well. And I think now, if I had to redo it, we would foresee some of these issues, and we could probably do it in a much shorter timeline. And now the farm has reached a kind of an equilibrium where it's beautiful. Nature has taken over. The trees grow well together. The peacocks walk in, and for us, it's a time of giving back to nature. We'd love to see all of them. We don't chase a single animal away from this farm.
Okay. Uh, and Charlotte, what were the things that you think you had, more problems adjusting to rather than, because it isn't smooth sailing. There is, so in your mind, what were some of the problems that you felt had to be tackled?
I'm not sure if I see it as problems. I think
Okay.
all my research time that I spent in Suriname, also in the rainforest, completely back to basic. I had a hammock. There was no toilet. I had a little wood to put my food to make fire or to cook. So when I came here, I was, ready to get started, because when I was there, I hardly had any light. There was no light. I had an oil lamp actually in the beginning always.
Okay.
So for
Okay.
me, anything that I had here was good. And from that time, we just started building further. Now, what I said, of course, when you work, you need internet. That was sometimes an issue. Or when you have power cuts and, well, you have a meeting. So these are issues that you need to solve.
Right.
Of course, Shammy also said immediately start driving, because we live on the farm. If there's anything that happens, the children are not there, you need to be able to drive yourself. So I immediately started driving. That gives you a lot of freedom. You don't
Right.
depend on other people. You need to be able to immediately act, whatever situation it is. So yeah, so we grew all these years, learning by doing was actually
What
it.
about the local language? Are you able to follow Tamil to some extent, or is it
A little bit. I started with the writing and the reading, so I can read and write Tamil, which is really fascinating because I love the script. I'm not so good in conversations. I started very enthusiastic in the beginning when I came here. And then, because of my PhD research, which was spread out over many years, I had to learn an oral tribal language in Suriname to be
okay?
able to conduct my research. So my focus was on that language. But now that is all finished, I started with my Tamil classes and making some short conversations.
Okay.
So I'm getting there.
Great. So why don't we, I think, spend a couple of minutes on the presentation the pictures that you've sent. We've just put it together into a presentation, and both of you can take us through it. I'll project it on screen, and then you can tell us what you remember of what it was like. Okay. I'll just, one moment. Yeah, you can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, the journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So this,
maybe
I
you should
think,
just
was. Hmm.
yeah. Okay, that's the start of our home, taken a far
Okay.
shot. It was the big tower on the left is the well. Sorry, not the well, the water
Okay.
tank, and just below that to the right is the well, and that's basically just two rooms. And these rooms were built for a watchman and a caretaker. And
Okay.
below that was the garage, a two-car garage.
Okay.
Our plans to build the main house was still in the works. So this was just meant to be. And we took this 20 years later. The photograph you see on the right, the same spot,
Wow. Okay.
and you can't even see the house. So it basically says, a dilapidated casuarina grove. It
Okay.
took us quite a while to nurture the earth, and remove all
Okay.
the acidity. And now it's just lush, right? So we
Wonderful.
think
It really, I mean, one would hardly think that this is what it looked like 20 years ago. This, I think, is again a close up of
that's
the
yeah.
water
So
tank
that's the
from
water
another angle.
tank from our balcony. We are and the well being built. And this is the
Okay.
same shot from the same balcony. You can still see that little white tank on the right, which was actually a tank built
Okay.
to collect water for the construction workers. There was no electricity and no pump, right? So they
Okay.
would store water in the tank and carry it up the
So,
steps.
so groundwater is the source, or do you have any other source for water which
No,
comes
just
in?
groundwater. Thalambur is surrounded by three beautiful lakes that we help also
Okay.
with Oroville to and work with the local NGOs to
Okay.
you know
Okay.
to
Okay.
nurture and
Get, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. This is another wonderful, from where it was to where it is such a
That's
huge
yeah.
difference.
So that is the only thing that was in that entire stretch was this gate and no trees.
Okay.
And today it is there's maybe one casuarina tree, which
Yeah.
all the rest has been planted or grown. The neems and the palms have grown naturally, but the rest
Okay.
are all indigenous fruit trees that we grow.
Great.
And what is very fascinating to see is that so when you start with your water tank, then nature comes back. I'm actually
Yes.
sitting now next to our water tank, and I see a squirrel, walking, running up the neem tree. Monitor lizards. It is, you start with your water tank. You can plant your
Okay.
trees. More trees will come.
Yeah.
Biodiversity.
Right. So
Lord, you
these
want
are
to?
yeah.
Here you see our projects with schools. On the left side, you see our children doing piano. A calf was just being born.
Okay.
Um, on the right side, you see two pictures of children visiting our farm. We started
Okay.
this farm for our children, but we also like to open our farm for other people. It can be schools, the children that come, families that come for picnics, or they stay in our guest house. And that way, we
Okay.
like to inspire other people as well.
Okay. Wonderful.
These are
And
innovations.
yeah.
This is, I mean, in order to keep us sane, we just have four pillars in the farm. Innovation is what both Charlotte and I do. Charlotte focuses more on education, and she teaches problem solving skills for children to work on the sustainable development goals. So when children meet together for a 6 hour session, she conducts takes one of the sustainable development goals and help them see the future. I do
Okay.
this for companies or social projects. So that's our innovation center. That's a little shipping container, which is our office, and we
Yeah.
surrounded it by glass windows and a
That's
yeah.
fascinating. You've just taken a couple of shipping containers and transformed this entire thing, right?
But
One on
again, like
top
I
of the
said,
other. I saw a roof, a photograph which Deepa, which is not there in this, but you had a sloping tiled roof projecting from the containers. Is that
yeah. So basically, containers are beautiful, strong structures. The first container came not to become an innovation center. The first container came
okay?
in to keep our tools and some of our things safe when we were not here.
Okay.
And then when
Okay.
that emptied out, we said, let's convert this to our office. And then people come and say, it'll be nice to have some place to sit. So then we extended the platform. Then Chennai heat was getting to the corporate folks. So
Yeah,
we
which is what I thought. Yeah. What is the floor? What exactly is the floor?
it's Pondicherry style, just
Wow.
polished
Okay.
cement,
Wonderful.
polished
Wonderful.
cement.
Yeah, and it looks so.
And
Yeah.
this also is, by the way, our dance floor, Venu.
Okay.
You
Okay.
see, do you see on the right hand side picture? Do you see those whiteboards on the
Yeah.
container? Those
Right.
whiteboards, those whiteboards turn around to become life size mirrors, full size mirrors. So
So
if
it is
people want to
multi-purpose.
dance,
Yeah.
yeah. So at night we still are very much in touch with the salsa group in Chennai, and they
Okay.
come and dance here.
Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah, that's the voice and us. Yeah,
Yeah,
making some
that's
doing some
your voice.
samples.
Yeah. So,
Sunday morning.
so what has been their uh, sort of experience for them? India's been the place from childhood. So is it something that there's a school nearby? You've not had an issue with those kind of issues?
I think for our children, because they grew up here, we were starting, the first tomatoes we grew were for them. So they know a lot about nature, how
Right.
to grow plants. But also when they go to a supermarket and they say, Mama, there's a mango in the supermarket. It's not mango season. Why is this here? So all these things, they are aware of so many things that
Yeah.
we don't even realize.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
in the beginning, there were not so many schools here, but we are lucky that the school, the KFI Krishnamurti Foundation India, came next to us, and that's very
Right.
much aligned with our values. So our kids moved to that school.
Okay. So what's a typical day like for you? I mean, I'm saying each day could be unique because you don't have something which is orderly. It's not 9 to 5. But I just want to get a sense of what is the rhythm like? How is it that what happens on are there certain things that you have to do every day, and the rest of it is kind of open to whatever, program has been scheduled?
Now, for sure, every day is different because in the morning we wake up. Of course, we get the children ready for school. We want to we drop them off, and then we start to make the planning of the day. I can tell you, we can make a planning of a day, but every day always goes different because there's so many aspects that we cannot control. When people say they would come and they come at another time, or
Yeah.
something needs to be repaired, it's urgently. So there's always something when you live on the farm that is unexpected that you need to deal with. But of
Right.
course, we make a planning. We make also a day planning, make a week planning. And the day starts first. We look at the plants, the garden. We make a round, see what needs to be done at the farm. We visit our cows, the chickens, ducks, the animals, our dogs. See if everyone is okay. And then we make a schedule: what needs to be planted, what tasks we need to give to our team, what our own tasks will be for the day. So that is something we start the day with.
Okay. Okay. Great. I noticed that, Shami, you also teach at a few places, and so does Sharat. How do you manage to find the time? How do you arrange the schedule?
Yeah. So just going back to the earlier question, about our day, right? So
Ah,
it's 10 years, and
yeah.
everything in the farm we did ourselves. So if you go back 5 years, we both of us would wake up at 3:30, and we would actually deliver milk. We would deliver 40 liters of milk. We would be in the
Okay.
jeep at around 4:30, and we would deliver milk. Whether it's flooding, when it used to flood, I used to take out the tractor and deliver milk. So those days were
Wow.
really exciting, but also very, very tiring. No time for a holiday, no time for a break. But then again, I
Okay.
think it's how you design your lives, right? So we kind of
You
looked at
had
each other.
somebody to milk when you said you were delivering milk 40 liters. How were you? The cows
Yeah,
had to
we
be
had
milked, right?
Yeah, we
Uh,
had we had
okay.
people to milk. We
Okay.
also experimented with the machine, but we said that we would only use in terms of emergencies. So,
Okay.
but then we had our milk to deliver, and then we looked at each other and said, "This is ridiculous with no breaks." So we told our
Okay.
community that we want to sleep in on a Sunday, so you don't get milk on a Sunday, and it was surprising. The community said,
Okay.
"No problem, we are fine with it." So, and then we call ourselves a lifestyle farm. It's not about the
Right.
business, it's not about the money. So,
Right.
we are slowly transitioning into a no animal kind of a diet and lifestyle. So, we asked
Okay.
ourselves, why do we have to get these cows to endure, the milking of every morning or twice, getting pregnant every year? So, October of last year, we took a decision to downsize our cows now from
Okay.
20 to 6. So, we don't milk them anymore. We don't deliver any dairy product anymore. So it's made our life a lot simpler and a lot more happy. Um, Teaching, yes. Again, going back with technology today, and sometimes it's nice to travel. We've minimized that, and technology has given us access. So I do teach disruption and creative thinking to cohorts that invite me, whether it's NIFT or I am Ahmedabad or the Design Village in Delhi. or go back to my alma mater, Think in Amsterdam. So that really works out well. So basically we can design our life, sit at home, work. The whole farm
Right.
is Wi-Fi enabled, so we can work out of anywhere. And COVID, thanks to COVID, everybody accepts, a call
Yeah,
like
that
this.
was, yeah. How did you, maybe I'll ask Sharon that question as well and come back to you, Shami. How did you handle COVID? What exactly happened? Because you were
Um,
isolated as it
yeah.
was. Yeah,
Yeah, so during COVID, we still had our farm to run. Luckily, our
yeah,
milkman was still living close by. The rest of our employees were not allowed to come anymore because they were further away than 2 kilometers. So what we did, we still delivered everyday milk to all our community. I can tell you this, and it's so weird to be alone on the road in the morning, 4:45 in my Jeep and deliver milk. Perhaps you see a policeman, further you don't see anyone.
yeah.
So we were able to leave the farm because we had essentials, and with the milk we could also deliver still some of our vegetables. We could keep an eye on our community, keep connected with them, say a hi or bye here, smile, and that was really, I think, nice. We could play a role there in keeping people connected. It further meant that we were extremely busy in our farm because we had to take care of the cows, we had to take care of the watering, we had to get our kids through the online schooling with 2 different programs.
Right.
So it was really a handful. If people say, "Did you watch any Netflix movie or anything?" No, we didn't have time for that. I think at 9 o'clock we would be knocked out in our bed, and the next day we'd start at 4 again. But we had the freedom to go out. We had the freedom to sit outside. We would do our runs in
Okay.
our own property, have a
Okay.
picnic outside with our kids. So that is the freedom that we had. But it was hard work.
Okay.
Just
Do you
just
ever
to add,
miss the city?
uh,
Sorry. Yeah,
Very,
please.
just to really quick to add to that, one important aspect of the whole COVID and the pandemic, there was
Yeah.
initially there was the panic buying. Koyamede, the vegetable market, had a cluster, and they stopped giving vegetables. So people were really panic struck, right? And that's the time we felt that we were okay. You
Yeah.
know, we had
Yeah.
our food, we
Yeah.
had our
Yeah.
water,
Absolutely.
we had our electricity, which we are on solar. We had a little shop that sold things that we don't have. So we get rice and everything from other farmers that we stock. So we had stock for 6 months. So with two children, we didn't have that panic, right? And we were like more into let's go out and give this fresh vegetables to people. And there were kids who have never seen the outdoors since the time they were born. So that
Right.
was a huge thing from COVID. Yeah.
Okay. From the perspective of your children, what is there, for them it's like daily life. It's not something which is very unusual. The two of you had to shift from what life was like earlier, but for your children, I think this is like, yeah, this is the way things are. So what has their experience been? Are they like kids everywhere who
Yeah.
just
I
look
mean,
around and
I think
then, yeah,
both of us have a take on this. So I think it's fantastic
yeah,
that Junior, older one, remembers a little bit more of Amsterdam. So he does
okay,
miss, the parks and the fact that he can cycle around and see his old friends. Keanu, the
okay,
younger one, doesn't remember Amsterdam that much, but when we go, we have a blast. So we know that our
okay,
children will be out of school soon and go away to college. So
right,
we leverage every opportunity we can to travel together with them. So definitely
okay,
Amsterdam is one of our homes. We go back there and meet friends and spend a good 5 weeks. Fortunately, we have a
okay,
great team here, Jacob and Kloosters, and the farm runs without us. So that's
okay,
fantastic. And we travel, and both of them are different. The older boy says, "Yes, I want to go and study in the Netherlands." The younger one is at a moment saying, "I don't want to study anymore." So we don't know where he'll go.
okay. Okay, Sharon, what's your take on this?
Yeah, so we wanted to create a place for them to grow up in harmony in nature and to be exposed to a lot of green. I know what it meant for me when I was growing up and have that freedom.
Yep.
In the end, of course, what they will do in their future is their own choice, but we want to give them good food, no chemicals, show them how things grow. And of course, they're getting teenagers now. They like to hang out with their friends. Many of their friends come here because we have the space, so they can stay overnight, have a campfire or something. But they also like to go to other places. So that's like all normal kids
Yeah. Yeah.
do. So yeah,
Yeah.
but it is an advantage to be here. Sometimes they like to go also to gated communities where so many kids are playing together, and then you drop them there.
Yeah. No, this is amazing because I think children in a city today are, you have things like play dates and you have a very, structured kind of life. But your children actually have the advantage of being able to work and play or literally live in an environment where they're so closely in touch with nature, which is a huge gift and a huge boon. So they're getting the best of both worlds, like Shami said. What has been the reaction of the community there? How did you build that community? Shami or
Yeah,
Charlotte?
I can do that. I think based on who we are and the kind of life we lead, I think we attract like-minded people.
Right.
Not everyone wants to come and live in a farm where it's all dark and you don't see
Right.
your neighbors, right? No,
Yeah.
not everyone likes a little frog in their bathroom. So it's a very like-minded group that we gather. So we have farm stays that we've been doing for the last 9 years, and we have some wonderful guests that come through our home and our farm. And we eat
Right.
together, talk together, share their experiences, and our children just gel with them really well. Um, we have schools coming. So the community we've developed is we have a community right now for around 400 families in our WhatsApp
Wow.
group, and everybody's fine if you tell them, the mangoes may have a little worm in the seed. People are okay with it. They're okay with greens with holes, and our children, they have the same view. It doesn't have to be spick and span and shiny. Um, and then just the knowledge that they project. So sometimes when a school comes on a Saturday, they have time off. So we say, okay, guys, you also have to facilitate a group. So they take on a
Yeah.
group of 20 kids and talk to them about caring for cows. They take them and talk, caring for chickens. So just watching them, the way they handle the animals, the way they talk about incubation, the way they talk about the cow's digestive system. They've seen it all. They've seen cows die because of the lack of
Okay.
greens. They've seen cows giving birth. They don't panic when they see a snake, but they're very safe. They know the distance to maintain, who to call. Um, so it's fascinating. I mean, there are so many intangibles, or not. Intangible is not the right word. There's so many things that we learn living in the farm without realizing, like the tones of the dogs when they bark, the behavior of the crows when they are sitting in the neem tree. The minute they are different, we know there's a venomous snake, or the way the dogs bark, we know there's a monkey, or it's so we also talking about languages, and Charlotte trying to pick up a language from the rainforest. We are picking up our own language, and we can, like, even if you walk at night. We know that there is a snake in the bush because of the way they slide. We know whether it's a snake, or we know whether it's a garden lizard, or we know whether it's a frog just by the
Okay.
sound of the ruffling. Yeah. So it's beautiful. I think it's fantastic to just to
Yeah.
live
Yeah.
there and embrace. I mean,
Yeah.
absorb it without realizing.
Absolutely. Charlotte, your take?
I think living on the farm, and we try to live in harmony with nature. All your senses are, being used. What Shammy just said, you hear so much more. Uh, and what we also notice when people come here, for example, for picnics, we started that during end of COVID to make people come out of the house again. And we noticed that the children were afraid of butterflies that come close to their head. They were afraid of touching the grass, walking bare
Right.
feet. They were
Right.
afraid of the noise for them, the beautiful sound of frogs. Um, And they were really detached from nature, which was very sad to see. So we continued those picnics for families actually till today, to reach out to the people who come visit the farm, be outside. So we like to be that farm to inspire people in whatever they want to do in their lives, have a home, build a small garden, have a farm, or whatever they would like to do in their future. That's why I always say the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Because when you dream about something that you want to create, keep dreaming, and then one day you will succeed. That's what I mean.
Amazing. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, Shami, let me ask you a question which do you think you had more, um, the move towards sustainability when you work with a large company like Nike, or Dr. Charlotte, when you work in a city or in a place where you're making change versus opting to immerse yourself in nature? How do you see the two?
Yeah, could you repeat that, Venu? I don't think I fully got the.
No, what I meant was that you worked in this the worked in Nike from a company point of view to look at sustainability. Do you think that was a narrower focus but greater impact in that particular place? Or do you think that this is more of a personal choice? I'm trying to understand
Yeah, yeah.
the kind of, yeah,
So I think in my years of coaching, in years of mentoring people, you cannot do one without doing the other.
okay,
If you do, you're not the most satisfied person, right?
okay,
So when a company says, and a company is conscious enough to say, we do need to do this, you know, we do need to take responsibility for the products we sell. And
right,
if you truly believe it, and you go the extra mile to find out the materials and the life cycle and all that about the product, and make sure you've minimized the impact of that product on the environment to the lowest you can. um, I also think that value should reflect on your personal value at home, right? That's when you're like, when we talk about work life balance, it's not about the number of hours you put, it's
yeah,
the values coming together, right? I'm happy to work in this company because my values and their values are kind of the same, right? Whereas I've met people who make lots of money, but they work in oil and gas or whatever, and they say, "Oh, boring job." That's the first thing they say, and I, wow, you spend 80% of your awake time with this, and your life is going on, saying it's boring. So
right,
so I think yes, companies doing the right thing. I would never take $1 million if a company is not doing the right thing, and if I'm
right,
convinced that they are doing the right thing, I would join them, and that's huge because they can make a huge impact. But still, some ways to go. Still, some ways to go where the corporates
yeah.
really realize that over the next 5 years, 10 years, how can they completely pivot and be truly aligned with their purpose?
Yeah, that is a. And Charlotte, what's your take on, you think that a sustainable lifestyle is something that you are, at least for the 400 families that you have built and the community that you've built, you're having a major impact. So is
So I
it micro impact is better, or do you think that, yeah,
I
larger
think
impact? Yeah,
I think it's
sorry.
both. I think it's
Okay,
both. You have to work on both levels, and that's actually what I'm doing. I still have my job at the university where I train
right.
master students in their final practical terms. I take tourists to Suriname to show them the rainforest, how amazing it is, and make them aware of the importance to conserve the rainforest. So I work on that level. Actually, after finishing my thesis on the importance of traditional knowledge for the people living in the interior of Suriname, the Maroons, the African descendants, I met the president and spoke, the president of Suriname, President Santoki, and spoke to him one-on-one about the importance of the rainforest. But I enjoy it as much to be here in Thalambur and have children coming to my farm. And when they leave the farm after the school visit and say, wow, I'm going to take this tomato plant home. And then after 1 week, I get a bit longer, I get a message from them and say, oh, I've got my first tomato. Thank you. So the inspiration, it works on different level. And I like to move in between these two levels. I work interdisciplinary, and I think that gives me the satisfaction to keep doing what I'm doing here from my home in Thalambur.
Wonderful. You
Yeah.
have found that lovely balance between doing what you believe is important and making a difference as well. So, uh, we've been talking for 50 minutes now. So, I'd just like to wrap by asking you both to talk about what you think a career should be for people who are just starting out. What are the kinds of things that you would advise them to do? And based on your experience and the experience of having had a very different life, what is it that you think is important and what is the advice that you would give them?
For me, I would say, for me, it was always following my passion, what I strongly
Okay,
believed in. And I could have done a PhD directly after my studies, but I was not interested in that. I wanted to do what I want to do. I was a bit stubborn.
right.
So it went a bit left and right, and finally, I got things the way I wanted it. So first, follow your dream, but don't keep dreaming only. You need to work. You need to gain knowledge. You need to meet the people. You need to
Yes,
build a network.
yes, right,
Otherwise, you won't get there. So it is very important to surround yourself with the people you can learn from and follow your own path, because that is what makes you unique. So I think that
right.
is one important thing from my career. How I manage it.
So, what about your children? Are they looking at biology? Are they looking at what are their interests?
For the youngest, very much biology. He has a lot of
Okay,
knowledge about fish, a lot of knowledge about snake, ants, actually animal he sees or any observation in nature. He will look it up. He's very much a sponge to get knowledge about
right,
nature. The oldest
right.
one as well. He loves also. He's very good with animals and their behavior, even with our cats at home. And he's
Okay,
also very fascinated more with the chemistry. So I'm very curious what both kids will do later on
how
in
they'll
life.
decide. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great. So, Shami, what's your take? What would you like to, you know, uh, if there's advice that you would like to give young people who are starting out,
Yeah.
where would you tell them to begin?
I think the first thing would definitely, back to what Charlotte just said. What what gets a smile on your face? What keeps you awake at night? Right? What is the industry where you really want to immerse yourself? No matter what it is, right? That's important. You need to look forward to go to work. There are some people, they say, I have no idea. And that's okay too. That's okay too, right? Uh, but be aware of that there should be something that you really want to go. If it is love for music, then just immerse yourself in a place that makes guitars or pianos, or just go there, get it, and keep that in one of your destinations. It doesn't have to be the one you're doing tomorrow, but
Doing right
have that
away. Yeah.
have that milestones, that I want to do that at some point. I want to do that sometime. Then I think kids and the generations are becoming more and more aware of that they need to do purposeful things.
Yeah.
They need to serve humanity. They want to serve, be kind to animals. They want to be kind to the. So try to work on a company that speaks that language with you. Yeah. So it could be, if you have like 10 clothing companies you want, make sure which is the company that really does something authentically and not just as a uh, tick box that they want to do and be there. And then jump companies, jump, spend 2 to 3 years, jump, like a dog before it finds a place to sleep, it takes a million turns, right? Do that, learn as much, get some fantastic
Yeah.
bosses, get some really bad bosses. It's okay,
Yeah.
it's okay,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
do that. And then and finally believe that everything is possible.
Okay.
Understand the need that the world needs today. Don't copy, don't make more of the same stuff. Understand the need that the world really needs or your community really needs, and see if you can come up with a purposeful solution for that. Yeah, because some of the
Okay.
things you see on Instagram where people are making how to peel an onion, how to peel this, all those are just more stuff, right? Without a thought. So let's do something really
Right.
wonderful that the world needs, the people needs, and that's what I would say. Always go, 80% heart, 20% brains is what I would say.
Terrific. Thank you both for spending the time and being so frank and forthright about everything that you've gone through, everything that you're looking ahead to, and the life that you've built for yourself. It's been a marvelous understanding of your journey, and I hope there'll be a lot of people who are inspired by what you've done and find their own goals. Thank you.
Thank you so much for today.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Shami, and thank you, Charlotte. That was our conversation with Shami and Charlotte, who have uh, started their own farm, moving here from the Netherlands, a wonderful career journey. And I think they had a lot to say, which was highly impactful and could be the inspiration for anyone who sees what they'd like to do in future. Next week, tune in again for another guest, another career journey. Goodbye for now. Thank you.